this album was very emotional for me. It's it's a deep feeling. It's a very, very, very strong emotion, and it's kind of addictive.
Theodore, how are you doing today? Janis is out for, well, over a week at this point. Does that mean that I have a much more calm and relaxed Theodore in front of me today than I would have had a week and a half ago? How did you live up to the release?
Firstly, thank you. Hello. So yeah, I don't know if I'm more calm or anything. Like, it's been a week, and that's true. It's 2 years of work.
Yeah.
That's done now, and 2 years of work of composing, of doing all I can all weekend to put Janis in the best way possible to the world. So I'm more like satisfied of all the work we've done.
Yeah. Now, it's not, not many bands can release a debut album on a label like Season of Mist. I'm sure that when you're composing the songs, that's not necessarily what you're thinking about or hoping for and what have you. But as this release is coming closer, did that add extra pressure or expectations to the mix as you're living up to that release?
I mean, the conception of the album was very raw from my part, very honest. But in one way, I always knew I wanted to do music in my life, and I never wanted in my life in general to put me some barriers or anything like that. So I always had in mind that I will try to present my stuff to labels, but now I know that's pretty insane to have what we have now, and I value that all days. I worked with people in the label who are fantastic, so we didn't feel any pressure because the work was very fluid. Everything was great. People worked very well there, and I want to thank them too, because that's true that was the first time actually that I found with somebody with a label or anything. So I kind of expected something because I know people who've done that, but I never lived it. And for our first experience, that was amazing, and yeah.
Most bands, their debut, more quote-unquote regular bands, a debut album tends to be like, songs that they've been writing and playing in bars for 10, 15 years, and it's almost like a greatest hits album. A lot of first albums, don't really have that identity yet, but with you guys, this was clearly written and made as to be one cohesive thing. And I described your album earlier today as it's like the soundtrack to a late night walk, but it starts to thunder at the same time, and it goes kind of in and out of that, but it all feels like this insane experience that all happens in one go, if you will. You told me before we started recording that you actually wrote a lot of this at night. There is I'm going to call it nocturnal feel to it, like the soundtrack of a dark movie, if you will. Does that make sense to you when I say these things?
Sure, yes. Actually, the second song of the album is called Devient la nuit, which we can translate to Become the Night.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a part, but more metaphorical part, because I wrote the album alone in my little studio in Paris. And it was a time in my life where I was very alone. It was a hard time for me, and the night embodies that. So that's why a good part of the album, too, more especially the lyrics, came from the night itself. But I like the idea that the night is more metaphorical, as you mentioned, it's a way through something. Sometimes it's more violent, sometimes it's more calm and melancholic, but it's a way.
Yeah. You mentioned like the music kind of ebbs and flows, if you will. There are quieter passages, there's more extreme passages, it's loud, it's quiet, it kind of goes back and forth with this kind of like atmospheric, and people will have a fun time trying to label you guys, and I'm sure the word post is going to be in there at some point. But it is a very varied album, even though it really feels as one body of work, if you will. We've seen a lot of bands gain some popularity now in that post world, if you will, that I know have adapted their set to who they're on tour with. Like an example, your label mate Sylvain, she shared with me, previously an interview that, when she's on the road with a heavy band, she'll like pick out all the heavy parts of her work and she'll make a more calm set, even if those songs are all on the same album, if you will, if it's a different artist. What's it like for you? Because I feel like this must be a hard album to translate to a shorter set. If you can't play the whole album, you're going to have to make some choices. Are you going to really think about, I'm playing with this band for that audience and therefore I'm going to play XYZ? Or are you more like, well, it doesn't really matter who my audience is, doesn't really matter who I'm on the road with. This is the story I want to tell regardless.
I think I like to think Janis like a piece in itself, because I think so. But I mean, in the same time, it's like a construction, if you know. There is stones for the construction, but each stone still is a part of Janis. So for the moment, we have a predefined set that we want to play, because I think, and we think overall, that's the vibe we want to give to people. There is violent parts and violence songs, violence with more extreme parts, and also we have very calm and atmospheric part, because I think it may be important. Now, if you ask me if sometimes we will play with hardcore bands, maybe we will adapt, because I think the beauty of the album too is that it's very eclectic, and we can adapt to. And I think we don't want to I mix Spanish and English.
All good,
we don't want to put us any limits. The band is able to play all the songs of the album, and if we see in the future we need to make some changes, I think we will able to do it, because each stone can embody Vestige.
Reality is that some of these songs that right now fit into this one big body of work, if you will, you're going, in 10 years from now, you might play one song or two songs of this album. And they then have to kind of really stand on their own 2 feet, if you will, where right now some of them really flow in together and they mix well. So is that something that the album is out now, but are you then now already looking back to your own art, going like, okay, how do I evolve this music as we are evolving? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, as I said previously, I don't want to put me any limits. So it's maybe a little bit too early for me to say if we will change some songs, because in the way it was created, they are really important for me because of what they say. it's part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's so for the moment, I think it's a little bit too early for me to say. But of course, if I can say that, I think as a band, we should be able to look at our art and then try to adapt some things, but in an artistic way. I don't want to do like half of the song or to redo my song because I'm opening for a band that is more violent or more calm. I will adapt maybe my set, but to change a whole song that meant to be the way it is actually, because it's a part of my life, it's a part of our life like a band. Maybe not in an artistic way. Yes, we already have some ideas for some of the songs we want to reinterpret in different ways. But everything, the more important for us and for me, it's the heart.
You say these songs tell stories and your stories. I know that you shared that it was a darker time for you as you were creating this. How do you now look back on, or how does it feel now? As you've got, not only are you sharing that with everybody, but you are going to be playing these songs. Is every time you play this song, does that make the pain a little less, or is it actually hard to go back into those dark moments whenever you play that song? What's that like for you?
That's funny because I think it's kind of the both. I mean, it's every time it's hard. Every time because we already did a few shows, and every time we played it, it's always hard for me to perform them emotionally. But every time it makes me better about it, and I'm always very pleased to play them. I love to feel that kind of emotion because first of all, I like to play. I like to perform in front of our public. I like to play with my friends, and I like to play music in general. But it's like this album was very emotional for me. It's it's a deep feeling. It's a very, very, very strong emotion, and it's kind of addictive. For the creation and for every time in the life. It was bad feelings.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was hard, but it was addictive. And sometimes to leave them again on stage, but performing them and sharing with people, because I think it's the good point of this kind of music too, is that it's not just I don't give them something. We share something, and that's what I like. That's what I like to feel. So it's kind of the both.
As far as I remember, all the titles of all the songs are in French, but we get a bunch of English lyrics on this album. Is it as simple as, if these stories are told in English, more people will be able to understand what I'm saying, and therefore more people can share this experience? Or is there another reason that some of that personal hurt, those feelings of loneliness, that depression, why did that come out easier or better in English than, for example, writing everything in your native tongue?
There is a few reasons. First of all my musical culture in general, the lyrics are in English, so I based my culture in English. Not everything, but the most part. It was always simple for me think in English, to sing in English. So that's for it. Secondly, I really love the sound of the language, and for me that's important to as the voice for me and in Vestige in general is very important. It's like another instrument.
Right.
The sound of the language English for me, it's a beautiful language. So I want to use it, and I want to enjoy it when I sing it. Now, for the French part, French is also very important for me because it's my native tongue, and because I think we have also beautiful language in the poetry. Some things like that. It's very different from English, but I don't want to. I didn't want. I didn't plan anything. You know, when I wrote all my lyrics, the parts which came in English came in English. The parts came in French came in French, and I never said to me like I want the French to understand me a little bit, but I want all the English people or to understand what I say. I just wrote what I had in mind and what I felt in this moment. So it was very raw, very direct way to write, and I didn't plan anything. And after all, when I was in the last part of the creation, I was like, I think I don't want to change anything. The title are in French. Because of the story around the album, and because I wrote them like that. But for all the lyrics and stuff like this, nothing was really planned. It's just two things that are important for me: French and English, and it just came like that.
The year is not over yet, but we're already almost in winter. 2025 will be here before we know it. What can you share, plan wise, of more shows to be announced, and what we should keep our eyes open for the next few months?
First of all, we have a little tour in October in France. We are very focused on that because that will be the first bunch of shows next after the album. So that's very important for us to be focused on that shows. And as far as 2025 is coming, like we had the chance to film with a very, very great production in France, and have some contacts with some touch with a very great production in Europe. So I think 2025 will be amazing. I think I can't share anything, but we are on the page for some great festivals and stuff like that. I think it will be.
We'll keep
great.
our eyes open. We'll keep our eyes open for those announcements as they come. Theodore, thank you so much for letting me call you in a little bit later in the evening in France. But we now know that you are a person of the night, and you'll probably be up for much longer and maybe even create more art while you're at it. Thank you so much for spending some time and answering our questions. Absolutely. We'll keep our eyes open for those announcements, and we hope to see you on a stage in 2025 real soon.
Thank you. Thank you for receiving me.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.